with the passing of Charlie Kirk, and there has been a lot that's been going on. And the truth is that we cannot control the losses that we have in our life, but we can control how we respond to grief. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about navigating through grief and recovery. And I know that some of y'all in our coaching group have dealt with a lot of loss and loss of family members, and this what's going on nationally is just possibly like putting salt on open wounds. So, and that will happen is when you're dealing with grief, there will be layers, okay, that happen, especially when now, Maria, I know you said that there was multiple people have passed away. And I know I have somebody else that is a comment on our replay, and she deals in addiction and recovery. So the amount of loss that she sees is pretty constant, and it can be very discouraging. It could be depressing. And so I want to give you some tools today on how we can do more than cope. We can reset our, oh, great. I forgot to record. Sorry about that. I have another record over here. So I want to give you some tips today on how we can reset our neuro function, because we can pray. That's excellent. We should always pray. But when dealing with grief and recovery, there is a neurological process that we have to identify, because once you become aware of what's going on with your body, the more empowered you become. Maria, you were with me. You saw me pregnant multiple times, and I had some really terrible labor and deliveries. I was scared of childbirth. It horrified me. And then it proved me right that I should be horrified, until I learned about the birthing process, until I learned about not just the physiological part of how my body was created, but I also learned the word and how we're no longer under the curse. And I went into the last two of my labors, understanding that we're no longer under the curse of pain. And then also that my body was created to do specific things. And then being so extremely aware in the process of my delivery that I was so relaxed that I couldn't even push the baby. I was tired pushing for a long time because my body was so relaxed that I couldn't get aggressive enough. In the past, my labors are extremely painful but very aggressive, and my body just wasn't being aggressive enough. I'm sharing that with you as a story to remember, because our brain, when dealing with grief, is no different. Okay, when we understand what's going on with our brain function, when we understand what's going on with our mindset, with our emotions, with our memories, and how it just becomes this whole soup of emotions, and we don't know which way is up or down. We begin to lose sight of time, we lose sight of the days. And honestly, this last week, because of what happened with the great loss of Charlie Kirk, I have been many days I was in a fog, and I felt like I'd go in my kitchen, and I wasn't doing this, but it felt like I was walking. I have a main island in my kitchen, and I felt like I was just walking in circles around it, even though I wasn't really walking in circles. I felt like I just kept going there, and I kept, I felt out of touch. I felt out of alignment. I just, I would sit down. I had somebody over here. I would say, "What did I just say?" I didn't remember what I was doing. I didn't remember what I was supposed to do. I was being very ill or ineffectual. Okay. I was not being effectual because my body was going through a grief cycle. So, what we're going to talk today about is our amygdala response, which is going to be common. We're going to hear about that a lot, because our limbic system is where our amygdala is a part of. It's housed in the limbic system. And I've already told you guys that the limbic system is our emotional center. Okay. So within that center, we have the amygdala. And the amygdala is where we have the good fight or flight response. That's where it's triggered. And so we also have, in the sense of, or when we're dealing with grief, we have the hippocampus. And the hippocampus, to make it easy for you guys, if you guys are taking notes, please do so. And actually, I already wrote it down for you, but what I want you to do is write it in the chat, or you can write it in the circle group right after we get off. why I want you to write when you guys are listening to these messages is because there is something that triggers in your brain when you write something out, even if you never see it again. Just the simple task of writing it out is making a connection. And so I take tons of notes, handwritten notes. I may never read them again, but until I write it down, there's something that I know is going to be a disconnect in my mind. And so I want you guys to write this down. Amygdala is your alarm system so that you'll remember. And what's even more helpful is if you guys could write in your journal, if you guys are keeping a journal for our Elevate coaching sessions, is to actually draw a picture of an alarm, whatever kind of alarm you want, or alarm system, just so that you get a visual that the amygdala is the area of your alarm system, fight or flight. And then the hippocampus is your library. So you guys can like draw a building and then right in the center of it, your memory library. And that is a place where your brain is storing information. It is a place where it's filing, but back in the day when I was this is when I was younger, I used to love to go to the library and I used to get so excited to walk in there and see like they were so tall. There was the ladders that leaned against the wall and that is a whole experience for me. And some people might have hated the library. I like the library. Well, our hippocampus is the library of our mind. So make a connection in your brain right now as I'm telling you this. Okay, I'm seeing it. Close your eyes and just see an alarm system. See the red light, like something. Just make a connection in your brain right now that your amygdala is that won't, like you see that alarm going off. That is so that you're making a connection. That is your amygdala. Okay. It is a siren. It's saying danger, danger, danger. Your hippocampus is walking up. For me, I'm going to remember that humongous library. I think that was in Ontario Library. And I'm going to just remember walking up to the library and actually getting excited because that is the library of my mind is the hippocampus. Okay. I love the library and I love that there are so many books. Okay, in a library, but the same thing in our mind. There's tons of information. There are tons of books, and you have the science area, and you have the political area, you have the nature area, you have all these areas. Well, your brain is no different. It has all these areas in the mind that are categorized. It's orderly that it pulls from. Okay, so something has just happened. They're like, this is in this file, we pull out this area. This happened 1999. That smell, I smelled the coffee. It was kind of burnt because something happened. There was a car accident. And so it's not just storing the file of the event actually happening, but it's also the place where those triggers are being like there's a connection. Okay. So there is something that sets you off, right? So so the reason I'm being so detailed in telling you guys about this is because just like my labor, they were terrible until I understood, okay, this is what's happening in my body. When I was in this stage of labor, this is what I should suspect. When the baby was coming out, normally it's panic and it's scary and it's screaming. And like this time when the baby was coming out, I was like, okay, so this is called the ring of fire. It's going to last for about, I don't remember now because I have a book. It's called, I don't have it here. Fearless Birth, look it up. It was a bestseller on Amazon. It's helped a lot of people. You can read it before your labor, the day of even. I've had people, it's only a 3-hour read. I've had people read it the day of, and now I think it's on Audible as well, but it can actually work within 3 hours of understanding the book. Okay. So same way, you guys are getting this course and I want you to understand knowledge is power when it is applied. So I applied what I learned in that book when I'm giving you a very graphic detail so that way you can remember this lesson. Okay. When the baby was coming out, it's called the ring of fire and it do burn. Okay. And so normally that scares the bejeebers out of me. But this time I was like, I knew how long that specifically lasts. And so when it happened, I already had a mental understanding that this is about to happen. And I don't remember if I did a countdown or There was different visualizations I was using during my labor. I was envisioning like rosebuds opening up. I was envisioning walking through beds of flowers that were all like opening up simultaneously. So there was all kinds of things that I was doing to prepare my brain. Very important to note is that there are a lot of new age things out there. There's some crazy stuff out there, and not everything that they do though is demonic, and not we shouldn't do everything that they do. Okay, so there is a happy medium in the middle, because I don't want to go get acupuncture, but I do believe in acupressure because I use acupressure when I'm giving labor, and it really does help. Okay, my husband pushes on a specific part of my body, and I'm like, okay, I guess I don't feel anything. He takes his hands off. I'm like, snap, stop, put it back. Okay, just never mind. I just keep the pressure on. Same thing with our brain. Our brain has sensory modes, sensory nodes. And when we are in a position right now of grief, our nation is grieving. We're all feeling a loss. And then when you have situations where they are stacked, like Maria's or some of the people who are involved in addiction or recovery, a lot of it's a roller coaster ride, right, Maria? It's like a roller coaster ride because you have, and I'm not even dealing with all of the past. I wasn't dealing with a lot of different things like that, except through extended people like you, Maria. But I'll tell you is that when you start stacking, another bad thing, another bad thing, the grief starts to stack, right? We start to get stacked grief. And then what happens is that when you're getting that grief, it's stacking, it's stacking, it's stacking. Before you know it, it's like this high. And then you feel like it's just sitting on your head, and you feel so heavy, and you feel so weighted, and you're like, grief, 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 and then grief. And you're like going down and down. And you're like, Lord, I don't know if I can take it anymore. This is a lot of grief. I don't know if I can handle this, but you can handle it. You just have to let your brain know that you can handle it. It's literally a decision that we have to make of how we're going to respond. So grief is terrible. It's like right now, yesterday, I'm just going to be honest with you. Yesterday was one of the hardest days. Like the first day, yes, you guys saw me praying for him when I thought we still had a chance to keep him alive. In the moment I heard that, no, that was it. You guys saw me, those of you who were on the live, I was so torn by it. I was grieved by it. And then I've gone up and down. I've gone from, we know how grief works. There are windows. Sometimes when it just occurs, it's shock. You're in shock. So it doesn't really hit you, and everybody's around, and everybody's giving your condolences. Everybody's there for support. But then when everybody dissipates, then there's another level of sadness that comes in, because now all the people who were there to support initially have to go back to life. And so, like I said, it is layers. It is, sorry about that. So it's layers, and it's one of those things where you have to make a decision, and it's not just deciding, because I want to make sure that I get this straight for you guys, is that you could say, well, Emma, sir, I don't want to be sad. I'm not saying just make a decision not to be sad and then you're not going to be sad. I'm not saying that, because it's deeper than that, but it does include a part of that, right? It does include making a decision like, today I'm going to wash my face. Today I'm going to get dressed. Today I'm going to brush my teeth, whatever it is that may come on you. When people are depressed, they don't want to do sanitation. They don't want to do self-care or any of that kind of stuff. So it is more than just a mental, oh, I'm going to do better today, and think that everything's going to be 1,000% better in your brain. No, it is a process. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So the amygdala, like I said, it's scanning for danger. It sometimes, though, mislabels grief as a threat. This is the important thing for you to understand, is why does the brain react the way it does with grief? Because it feels like it's a threat. The amount of pain that you're under with grief all of a sudden puts what? It puts you into a red flag zone. It puts you into an alert, and your body is created to protect itself. It is created to work in unity with itself, and your body wants to survive. And grief feels like a slow death sometimes, that is painful, but you're still alive and breathing. So the hippocampus and it is the memory center. It's constantly, it's your place, like where you're like replaying the stories. It creates the details. It tries to make sense of loss. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you go from this just happened. I just saw the video. I saw what happened with Charlie. I saw the lunge. I saw, so it's replay. It's awful. And you feel awful. Every time you hit the replay, it's sending a signal to your brain that you're in grief, but your brain is like danger, danger, danger. You're in danger. And then also it goes to now you're not just replaying the loss. What you're doing now is trying to make sense of it, which is the questions come in like, why, Lord, why him? Why now? You're making sense. It doesn't really, when you start saying it doesn't make sense, it's because your brain is what? Trying to make it make sense, right? So triggers are, if you guys are taking notes, triggers are moments, sounds, or places that reignite the emotional intensity of grief. Moments, sounds, it could be a song. Songs are like humongously triggering. They're so powerful. That's why people, gravitate towards music for different things. You could walk into, it doesn't matter what the situation is. It just has to, I'll give you a very good example. Songs can be triggers. I don't know if I shared this with you guys before or not, but for the new viewers, one time when I was small, I was born in the ghetto of Los Angeles, and I remember visiting my grandmother on a different block. We had two grandmothers living on two separate blocks, both in people dying on the block. Okay. I'm trying to think if I was maybe like 6 at the time. I remember though that song by David Bowie, Let's Dance, Put On Your Red Shoes and Dance. I think, Let's Dance, Put On Your Red Shoes and Dance Tonight. Remember that song? Boom, 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 let's dance. That song was playing. It was dark. It was outside. Somebody had it on their car radio. I'll never, ever forget that song in that moment for the rest of my life. I was only 7. I'm 51 now. Every single time I have ever heard that song, I remember being on the block in front of my grandmother's house and just finding out that the neighbor behind my other grandmother's house that lived directly behind her was hung on his tree by a rival gang. So in my amygdala, there is a file, and it's filed that there is a memory from that age of Let's Dance. That is a trigger. It can trigger intense grief. It can trigger intense rage, trigger. So the neuro association is that grief memories can link to everyday cues. So it doesn't have to take much. That's why, like in our relationships, it doesn't even have to be grief. It just has to be something in our marriage. I mean, I have triggers in my marriage. There are things that I know that trigger me, and they're normally certain situations, and I know what the trigger response is. I know why I feel triggered. I know that my brain is triggered. Why when you're feeling a trigger, it's because you feel unsafe. Grief makes you feel unsafe. Loss makes you feel unsafe. There are triggers for everything. It could be unfaithfulness. Maybe your spouse cheated on you. Maybe your dad left you. So there are different triggers that happen. Okay. And that's all related to that. So the number one thing is to remember that triggers don't mean that you're weak. It means that you're human. It means that your brain is doing its job of going through the process of trying to figure things out. This is not about you being weak. This is about you being human. You're here today, though, in this Elevate coaching because you're here to strengthen the thinking process, the understanding process, because knowledge is power when applied. So we're going to get some tools to recover through grief, because what we really need then is some way to calm our brain, to calm that space, to calm down the amygdala, to say, okay, the hippocampus has brought up, okay, so you just smelled. I I remember one of my friends, she could not stand the smell of gas station coffee, like because she had a really awful memory connected to somebody in her life that used to like smoke cigarettes and drink that coffee. And so she had a memory filed away for that. So, what do we do with these situations is that we have to remember that now you're aware, you're like, okay, I'm sorry, I just said we have triggers, and the triggers are happening because my library, I have that Ontario big library in my head. My library just went and said December 7th, 1970, whatever. Okay, my brain is going through a whole function. So here we are going about our day. We're cleaning the house, we're whatever it is that we're doing. We're going to work, we're getting online, we're getting on a Zoom, we're going to church, whatever it is that we're doing, we are going about our day, but there's a whole world that is going on inside of your mind, inside of not just your thinking mind, but in your brain. Okay. And when I say your thinking mind, I'm not talking about your frontal cortex here of critical thinking. I'm talking about memory centers that are happening around the clock, even when we're just going about our business. It's kind of like computers languages are like 0 1 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 1. We don't know that because all we see is that we push a button, it makes it happen. We push a button and we type and there's a B that we type in there, but we don't know in order to push it. And I am not the tech one. So if somebody comes on here that I can't say, you ain't know what you're talking about. Listen, my kids are in tech. I know that that's when I was younger, okay, not doing good in my tech college course. That was a very basic thing that I learned early on. That there is, it's code, okay. Layman's term is code is going on. In order for there to be red font, you have to do like brackets, font, red. Get my point? We just pushed a button, all the font got red. Does that make sense? I'm going kind of deep right now, okay? So I hope you guys are tracking with me. This is important to note because that's what we are trying to change. Yes, I want you to think better. Okay, I want you to think better, but I also want to retrain and reset the brain process in your head because listen, this is the exciting part is that when you start to reset your neurological function, that trigger, because now you're giving a new response to it, no longer is making a connection of this trigger means pain. Okay, now that trigger happens and it's like, oh, you're changing the response to it. So now it's coming together and it's like, okay, this used to be a trigger, but now I don't feel like sparked because of it. And so some of the things you can do, and it's very basic, so this is not too deep, okay? Breathing exercise are really important. I really didn't do that before. I have now started to stop and take time to rest. One of the things I do for a reset, so you guys put that down in the chat, reset, is that you guys have to take a moment to reset. When you're triggered, just remember reset, reset, reset. Okay, so you guys can type that out. So, trigger, you feel a trigger instead of going through the motions of anger and sadness or whatever, you just got triggered. You can, and I've already told you guys, like tap your forehead because it's you're telling yourself in your brain that I'm resetting you right now. I'm pushing that button, I'm resetting. And what you're doing is making a hand and body connection to what you're thinking. Your body's moving. You're like, I am going to reset right now. And then do an action. So reset and then do an action that is going to calm down your nervous system, that is going to calm down that fight or flight response. And so one of the things is box breathing. And so that's something that I've done. I haven't been doing a ton lately, but even with the Charlie thing, I had to find myself stopping, resetting. And that means going to my living room floor, laying prostrate on the ground and just laying down and just laying there. And I just get before God and I lay down on the floor and let my body just be so relaxed, not stressed. If I feel my shoulders are tense, it's like being in the moment where I'm feeling stressed about this thing about Charlie. I'm feeling stressed about what's going on and I'm not being productive right now. My brain is scattered. I'm all over the place. I can't even think straight. I can't get a clear word out. I've just been laying on the ground, putting my face down and just, okay, this is where you could just do some deep breaths at that moment, even. And Just take like a breath in for 4 minutes and exhale until it's all the way out. Just doing that right now, because I'm talking right now, I'm excitable right now. Just even doing that with you for that second, it actually felt so good. I don't know if you're at home, I want you to try that right now. It feels good to me. It feels like somebody's hugging me right now. Do you see what I'm doing though? Is now there's a trigger. Now you're stopping. You're just taking a breath. You're calming down your brain function. So you're not just making a mental choice. You're not only just taking action, but you're actually rewiring that circuit in your mind that is connected to grief. So another thing I'll probably talk about this multiple times, but there's also box breathing, and it is helpful because you envision a box. And I know I'm going over today, so I apologize about that, but just pretend like there's a box, okay? We got box breathing. So for the box breathing, remember it's 4, 4, 4, 4, 3 4s. That's the count. And then you do this cycle 4 different times. So you're going to go through 4 breathing patterns 4 different times. By that time, your whole body should be grounded. You should feel calm. Your nervous system should be, sedated. You should feel focused. Your thinking should be clear. So inhale for 4 seconds. So I'm just going to go through it and I'm going to just do like the box situation so you guys see, okay? So you inhale for 4. See, I mean, so I'm doing this hand stuff, but I'm just showing you it's making a box. Okay, 4 in, 4 out, 4. That way you can just track with it with where you're at. But what you're doing is just resetting your nervous system. You're calming yourself. You're putting some water on the heat because your brain is like lit up. It's feeling fiery. Okay. So there is that one. And then let's see here. I also want to teach you about a grounding technique. And like I said, some people might be like, what is she talking about? I'm not new age. If you're following me long enough, I'm not new age. I don't support it, but I do support things that they're using and happen to be new age. Okay. If they line up with my values and they line up with health. So they call it grounding. They say walking on the grass, going to earth. But what I'm going to talk about for grounding today is when you are in a trigger, I want you to stop and get connected with the area around you. Like be cognitive, be thinking about the things that are around you. Because right now, what happens is that when you're in trauma, you are caught in a cycle of disarray. Okay, you can't think of anything. And for those of you or those of us who can obsess over something, if you have ADHD, if you have OCD, this is a really good practice for you to become more calm and to be more focused and to be able to gather your thoughts, especially like before a meeting. So it doesn't even have to be grief and trauma related. It's a great tool to use this when you're feeling really nervous about something, you're feeling perturbed about something, and you just need to come back together and gather yourself. Okay. So it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the first thing you do is you're going to look for something to see. Okay. So I'm going to just go over the 5 and then I'll give you some examples. So it's first, it's your 5 senses. Okay. And if you forget they don't have to be in order because you can just go over your person. There's 5 senses. So the first thing, the 5, we'll start off out. We'll go like 5 and things that you see, things that you feel, things that you hear, things that you smell, things that you taste. So it's your 5 senses, right? Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are now in a trauma trigger. Stop, be present. All right. So I'm going to write that down here. Be present. And there was another word that I used besides grounding. Do you guys remember what I said about grounding? It was another word. gather yourself. Okay, so if you want to say I need to ground myself, or you want to say I need to gather myself, you guys can choose a term, but you guys use it as a tool. So what do you mean, Emma Sarah, by seeing things? Stop, look around you, and what do you see? Do you see a bird flying in the air and you just follow it? Okay, just be conscious for a second. Like, I just see a bird right there. You look out the window and you see a red car pass by. Just stop and be cognitive of a red car passing by. A tree swaying in the wind, a reflection in the window. See something. Be out of what you're doing is you're escaping and you're exiting out of that feeling of just complete and utter, you're consumed by a tragic event. When you're consumed by a tragic event, what you're doing is you're taking a nice, respectable step away from danger in your mind. Number 4 is what you feel. So maybe you feel that I used to do this class, and we used to sit on the floor, and it was so relaxing because we would lay on the floor and they would say, you don't even realize that your shoulder is not, let me see here. You wouldn't even realize that your shoulder is up. You're laying flat on the floor, but everything's up. Now you relax until all your body pieces are actually aligned, and it's a back alignment. So that way your body, it's kind of like going to the chiropractor, so that all your body, everything is settling properly. And it's kind of the same thing. You're feeling the breeze on your skin. You're feeling like things that we just do and we're not even paying attention to, like, oh, I just went like this on my hand. I didn't realize until I told you to realize what you're feeling. I just realized that my skin is soft right now. I had just put lotion on and it feels away. Okay. Be cognitive of what you're feeling. Things that you hear. I just heard a dog barking, row, row, row. And like you stop and you're like, there's a dog barking. Car just passed by. And you're like, listen, okay, I'm just listening for something. Leaves rustling in the air. And then things that you're smelling. If you're outside, you could be smelling fresh cut glass. If you're in the house, you could be, I smell my husband is making some coffee right now. If you're in the house, step outside and get fresh air. Just go outside. If you're in the house, you're feeling grief, go outside, listen to the wind, hear the rustle of the leaves, smell the smell of fall. Sometimes like different seasons have a different scent. Beach, if you're at the beach, it has a different scent. Be cognitive of what it smells like. Okay. And if you're like, it smells in here, like go somewhere that is pleasant to smell. Taste. It could be, like I just came over here and, do we think about water having taste? Water does have a taste. That's why I'm not much of a water drinker, because I don't really like the water taste typically, but it tastes kind of weird. But I just noticed it. I stopped. I was present with it, and I just realized, like, yeah, water has a taste. That's why I always season it, flavor it. You could be chewing some gum, like yeah, just stop and think about. We're mindlessly chewing gum. Stop and think about your gum. All right, so. And then one thing you could do also to rewrite your brain is to actually audibly now make a connection with your brain by saying an affirmation like, this signals, okay, do your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This signals to my brain right now that I am safe, that I am not in danger. I'm here, I'm present, I'm safe. And so you just took a traumatic situation, you just took a traumatic trigger, and you just rewired that pathway in your brain that was like, going from here to here and saying that there is danger, and you're rewriting the information that is going on that neurotransmitter that's now giving a different piece of information, which is, this is no longer a danger. Make sure you like and subscribe, follow, and then you can also go to emmasarah.com to find out more information or have me speak at your events. If you want to join our Elevate community. We're a community with like-minded people who are there for a purpose, to live our lives with intention for you. So remember, y'all, go out, live the life that you want to be remembered for. Start at home. God bless you.